I got fired with a single email. No meeting. No warning. No face-to-face. Just one cold sentence delivered at 2:43 a.m. Your services are no longer required. Please return company property within 48 hours. That's it. 3 years of dedication gone before sunrise. But here's the thing. 3 years after that email, I sat at the head of the very boardroom I used to be locked out of, wearing the same color suit my boss once mocked me for. And across from me? Him. His tie was crooked, his eyes sunken, his resume slid across the table like an apology wrapped in a manila folder. He didn't recognize me at first. That was the best part. I asked him to walk me through his previous leadership experience. He stumbled, and when he finally looked up and saw my nameplate, his mouth opened but no sound came out. I let the silence stretch, just long enough for it to sting. Then I smiled, leaned forward and whispered, "You're right. My services weren't required. Because I wasn't meant to serve. I was meant to lead." He didn't get the job, but he did get something else. A front row seat to the revenge he never saw coming. I know this sounds like a Netflix pitch. Like I'm about to sell you some Silicon Valley fairy tale about getting rich after being screwed over. But no, this is not a story about startups, stock options, or secret investors. This is a story about humiliation. It's a story about broken trust. It's a story about how you can give everything to someone, build their dreams with your bare hands, and still be discarded like an expired badge. And if you've ever been fired, not for being bad at your job, but for threatening someone just by being too good, then maybe, just maybe, you'll understand why I couldn't let it go. Not out of pettiness, not out of ego, but because sometimes revenge is just justice with better branding. So let me take you back to the day I got that email, to the smell of stale coffee and carpet glue in that cold, soulless office, to the moment I realized, this isn't the end. This is the burn that forges something stronger. Let's rewind. You're going to want to hear this. I wasn't supposed to end up in corporate. My degree was in literature, not spreadsheets. But life had other plans. When my father passed away during my final semester of college, I had to drop everything. My mother was drowning in debt, and my younger sister still had 2 years left in high school. So I shelved the poetry manuscripts, burned my MFA applications, and applied for the first stable-sounding job I could find. It was a junior coordinator position at a mid-sized consulting firm, the kind of place that had motivational posters in the break room and quarterly team spirit meetings with stale bagels. I didn't love it, but I was grateful, and I worked like someone who had no plan B. I arrived early, left late, said yes to everything, filled in for coworkers, covered weekends, stayed silent when credit for my work mysteriously got reassigned to someone else. That's when he noticed me. David, the regional manager, my boss. He was charming in that used car salesman kind of way. Always a smile, always a compliment that sounded sincere until you thought about it too long. "You've got a good brain. Quiet but effective. Like a sniper." He'd say stuff like that in front of the team and then wink. It made me uncomfortable, but he also started giving me more responsibility. Before I knew it, I was leading small client projects. I had a desk by the window. He called me his secret weapon. I won't lie. I felt seen, valued. And after a year of living paycheck to paycheck, I finally breathed a little. I moved Mom into a better apartment, helped my sister apply to colleges, even started a tiny savings account I called the Someday Fund. I thought, maybe this is how it works. You grind, you sacrifice, and eventually the right people notice. But I forgot something. When you shine too brightly in a room full of fragile egos, someone is always going to try to turn off the lights. It started small. David stopped responding to my emails as quickly. He canceled one-on-one meetings last minute. My projects got reassigned without explanation. I thought maybe I had done something wrong. Maybe I came on too strong. Maybe I said the wrong thing in the wrong meeting. I shrunk myself, became quieter, apologized when I wasn't sure what I was apologizing for. It didn't help. 3 weeks later, a rumor floated around that I had manipulated numbers in a client report. It wasn't true, but it didn't need to be. David didn't ask me about it, didn't check the file. Didn't even look me in the eye. He didn't call me into a meeting. There was no official sit-down. No HR rep. No phone call.
No explanation.
Just an email. Sent at 2:43 a.m. with one sentence. Your services are no longer required. Please return company property within 48 hours. That was it. No thank you. No acknowledgement. Just a surgical severing of everything I'd built over 3 years. I remember waking up groggy, checking my phone and just staring at the screen, reading the words over and over, thinking maybe it was a phishing scam, some mistake, but it wasn't. I walked out of that company the next day with a cardboard box in my hands and a lump in my throat. Later that night, David posted something on LinkedIn. A vague status. Smug. Disgustingly poetic. Sometimes removing a snake from your garden allows the flowers to bloom. Seedling #leadership. I don't remember crying. I remember rage. And worse, humiliation. The kind that makes your stomach twist and your hands shake. He had crushed me. Silently. Effortlessly. Without ever facing me. And the worst part? No one questioned it. Not my team. Not HR. Not the clients I'd helped for years. I was invisible. Just gone. But somewhere, buried under all that shame, a voice whispered, "You're not done. Not yet." Losing your job is one thing. Losing your reputation? That's a different kind of death. It's not fast. It's not loud. It's slow, quiet, and humiliating. You start noticing the silence first. People stop returning your messages. Emails go unanswered. Recruiters who once chased you suddenly have nothing that matches your profile. First, I tried to play it cool. This happens. Companies restructure all the time. But no matter how I tried to spin it, the story already had legs, and they were running in every direction. Someone, I still don't know who, started feeding lies to the industry grapevine. That I'd manipulated data. That I got caught trying to shift blame for a failed project. That I was emotionally unstable. Suddenly, I wasn't just let go. I was radioactive. The worst part? David didn't need to lift a finger. He just let the silence do the talking. And silence in this world is always interpreted as guilt. I spent the first 2 weeks refreshing job boards like a maniac. I sent out 127 applications. Heard back from 12. Got 2 interviews. One of them ended with a recruiter saying, "You seem sharp, but there's chatter. You know how small this industry is." I nodded, smiled, shook her hand, walked out, collapsed in my car and screamed until my voice cracked. You ever scream alone in a parking lot? It echoes in your bones. I moved back in with my mom 3 weeks later, handed over the lease to my apartment, canceled my gym membership, ate ramen for breakfast, turned off all notifications on my phone. There's something deeply unsettling about watching your life shrink, bit by bit, until you feel like a ghost in your own skin. I started to believe the rumors. Maybe I was a problem. Maybe I had pushed too hard. Maybe I wasn't built for this world. I didn't sleep. I stopped talking to friends. I deleted social media. And the worst spiral of all? I started going back to LinkedIn to watch David rise. New post every week. Another promotion. Speaking engagements. Thought leader articles full of recycled wisdom. Leadership is about pruning what doesn't serve the tree. I was the pruning. But even in my lowest moments, there was one thing he didn't count on. I had time and anger, and both are extremely underrated resources. Late one night, about 6 weeks after I got fired, I was lying on my mom's couch scrolling through job alerts when I saw a posting. The company name caught my eye. Everlock Consulting, a firm I'd never worked with but knew by reputation. Aggressive, expanding, and hunting for fresh leadership. They wanted someone to build a new innovation department from scratch. A visionary. Someone who had survived corporate firestorms and learned from them. I stared at that line, laughed bitterly. Then something inside me shifted. I didn't want a job. I wanted this job. I rewrote my resume that night. Cut out all the safe stuff. All the polite crap. I told my story plainly. What I'd done. What I'd built. What I'd lost. But I also included what I'd learned. Not in buzzwords. In blood. I told them the truth. Not the rumors. Not the sanitized version. The actual story stripped raw. And at the end, I added one sentence that even surprised me. If you're looking for someone with polish, I'm not your girl. But if you want someone who's been burned alive and still walked out with her integrity intact, I'll see you Monday. They called me on Friday. I thought that was it, that I'd finally turned a corner. But Monday came. We had the interview. And by Wednesday, I got the email. We appreciate your passion and transparency, but after careful review, we've decided to move forward with a different candidate. We're concerned about the reputational risks, given the visibility of your past situation. I read it twice. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't angry. I was tired. So incredibly tired of being a cautionary tale. I closed the laptop, sat back, and for the first time in weeks I didn't cry. I just whispered to myself, Fine. If no one wants to give me a place at their table, I'll build my own. I didn't cry after Everlock rejected me, but I didn't sleep that night either. I sat at my mother's kitchen table, staring at a mug of tea I didn't drink, thinking, maybe I don't belong in this game anymore. But that wasn't true. I didn't fit the game because the game was rigged, so I decided to build a new one. Started with a notebook, then a Google Doc, then a domain name, restructure and rise. Catchy, maybe, but it wasn't branding. It was survival. I poured everything I had left, not money, I had none, but pain, memory, insight, into a one-woman consulting firm that promised just one thing. We fix what bad leadership breaks. No office, no clients, just me and a second-hand laptop on my mom's kitchen counter. People didn't line up. Some laughed, some ghosted me, but one small startup took a chance. They were bleeding talent, choking on bureaucracy. I helped them breathe again. Word spread. In 6 months, I had a team of 4, a client list of 10, and for the first time in a year, hope. And then the universe played its favorite game, irony. I got a call from Everlock. We're evaluating a potential merger with a mid-size firm. We're looking for third-party consultants with experience in restructuring. You came highly recommended. I almost choked, but I kept my voice even. Happy to help. Send me the NDA. They did. I opened the PDF, scrolled down to the target company, and saw David's name. The same David who'd fired me, smeared me, ghosted me into professional exile. Now, he was the CEO of the company Everlock wanted to acquire, and they were hiring me to evaluate him. I stared at the screen for 5 minutes, then whispered, "Game on." I didn't tell them my connection. Not yet. I got to work. I reviewed internal reports, turnover data, exit interviews. There were red flags everywhere. Toxic work culture, abuse of authority, manipulative incentive programs, gaslighting junior staff. It was the same pattern, just scaled. David hadn't changed. He'd just gotten better at hiding. Until I found my name, buried in an old thread. Melissa Nguyen, former employee. High potential but emotionally volatile. Not suitable for leadership development. That email was timestamped 3 weeks before he fired me. I spent 2 days building the most meticulous internal audit of my life.
No bitterness. No bias.
Just facts sharp enough to cut bone. The report ended with a summary. This leadership structure poses a reputational and cultural liability. Recommend full executive review prior to merger. I attached it. Wrote a short note. Happy to discuss in person. Melissa. They called me the next day. We'd like you to lead the transition. If we go through with this. I didn't even blink. I accept. The merger finalized 2 weeks later. David was called into a review panel. I wasn't in the room, but I heard the details. He tried to spin it. Said I was vengeful, emotional, unstable. They showed him the numbers, the patterns. His own words. He cracked. Offered resignation on the spot. Effective immediately. But Everlock didn't just accept it. They rewrote the press release. A leadership refresh in collaboration with Restructure and Rise. Transition headed by Melissa Nguyen. That was my name. On their letterhead. I walked into David's old office on a Monday morning. Same mahogany desk. Same leather chair. Different woman. I didn't sit right away. I stood at the window, breathed, then picked up the phone. HR? Begin department-wide leadership review. Full discretion. Start with his inner circle. Later that afternoon, my assistant handed me a card.
Blocked sender.
Inside, a note. You won. Just remember, crowns are heavy.
No signature.
But I knew the handwriting. David. I didn't reply. I just smiled and looked out the window of the office that used to be his. I didn't just win, David. I own the whole damn board now. David didn't disappear overnight. For a while he tried to save face. He updated his LinkedIn with vague language, stepping away to explore new ventures, excited about what the future holds. He even posted a photo, standing in front of a private jet that almost certainly wasn't his, captioned, "Change is the only constant. Onward." It had 2 likes. One was from his cousin, but the industry isn't stupid. Whispers started, then whispers turned into questions, and the questions became stories. A former intern came forward, said David had screamed at her for forgetting a slide in a deck. An ex-director posted anonymously about unethical retention bonuses. Someone even leaked a voice recording, David berating a junior employee during a one-on-one. His voice like poison. Everlock, of course, denied involvement. But when asked why they'd cut ties with the CEO so suddenly, they pointed to my report. They didn't mention my name, but everyone knew. Suddenly, I was being invited to speak on podcasts, to mentor women in leadership. I wasn't just back. I was respected. The thing David had tried to destroy, my credibility, was now the reason people trusted me. And David? 6 months later, I heard he tried to start a new company, tech adjacent, AI something. He launched it quietly. No funding rounds.
No PR.
No buzz. He reached out to 3 people I knew for advisory roles. All 3 turned him down. Then I got a call from one of the VCs he pitched to. "Melissa, just checking. This guy, David, is he really as toxic as people say?" I paused, then smiled. Toxic is a cute word, but let me put it this way. He burned every bridge he ever crossed. And now? He's stranded. I didn't tell them not to invest. I didn't have to. They never called him back. A year later, someone forwarded me a Reddit thread.
ErgTech fails.
It was about a founder who launched an AI startup with 0 traction. Went on a Twitter rant blaming cancel culture for his failure. Username? A David R. exec. I didn't even finish reading. I closed the tab, closed the chapter. Now, I run 2 offices, have a staff of 27, and a waiting list of clients. I don't work 100 hours a week anymore. I delegate. I breathe. I sleep. I smile more. Sometimes I still think about that Monday morning, the one where I stood in David's old office, alone, at the window. That version of me. She was scared, exhausted, but she stood anyway. And because she did, I'm here. One time someone asked me during a panel, "Melissa, what would you say to the person who tried to tear you down?" I didn't hesitate. "Thank you," I said. Without him, I would have never built all of this. And that's the thing about revenge, isn't it? The best kind. It's not about making them fall. It's about making you rise. I've learned something along the way. Revenge doesn't always come in fire and fury. Sometimes it comes in spreadsheets, in growth charts, in quiet leadership meetings where your name carries more weight than it ever did before. Sometimes, revenge looks like healing, like walking into the building that once spit you out and choosing not to spit back, just to build better. If you're listening to this and you've been broken, betrayed, or belittled, I see you. And I promise you this, you don't have to get even. You just have to rise. And to David, if by any miracle you ever hear this, thank you. You fired me. You silenced me. You tried to erase me. And without meaning to, you built me. I don't need to slam doors anymore. I own the keys. If you've ever been torn down and had to rebuild yourself, tell me your story. Speech balloon, drop it in the comments. Let someone else feel a little less alone. And if you love stories of true revenge, personal rise, and poetic justice, you know what to do. Push pin, subscribe, bellhop bell, hit that bell. Repeat button, share this story with someone who needs it. Because the best revenge stories are the ones we write for ourselves.